Well, our president still won't even say the words radical Islam and wants the killer's references to Islam deleted from the calls. Donald Trump, on the other hand, is considering a plan to profile Muslims inside the United States of America. Here he is over the weekend.
We really have to look at profiling. We have to look at it seriously. And other countries do it, and it's not the worst thing to do. I hate the concept of profiling, but we have to use common sense. We're not using common sense.
All right, joining me right now for their perspective on that, Fox News contributor Leslie Marshall and former Bush speechwriter Ned Ryan. Ned, starting with you, Trump's taking a lot of heat for this. Do you think he's going too far? Or is he just saying what those in the intel community perhaps already know, that you need to focus on the people most likely to commit these crimes, and they're not necessarily Irish Catholics?
Exactly. And I think there was a very interesting piece in Reuters today, and the Israeli Minister of Transportation and Intelligence had some really interesting quotes. Of course, Israel's been doing an excellent job of profiling. So is France or other European countries considering profiling. But the Israeli minister said something very interesting towards the end of that piece, in which he basically said the American law enforcement community is essentially, using different terms, profiling already, acting on leads, identifying potentials, and then acting to make sure that they prevent any...
But they're not supposed to, right? I mean, the president has made that clear. He's said, taking it right out of the manuals. The FBI is not supposed to profile based on someone's religion.
I would encourage those that are watching to read the Reuters piece today, and especially those last few quotes by the Israeli minister.
In other words, they're doing it anyway, but they're saying they're not.
Exactly. Well, they're doing it anyway. They're doing it by different terms, but in essence, they are identifying where they think potential threats are coming from. And again, like you said, Trish, Irish Catholics don't seem to be the ones causing this sort of terror in recent times.
Yeah,
we can identify where they're coming from.
And let me go to Leslie on this, because, we are a nation that was founded on the freedom of religion. I mean, it's part of who we are, right? So this is where it starts to get very sticky, because you wonder at some point when this crosses over into extremism, radicalism, it's no longer a religion, it's a political ideology, and people have made this point over and over again, more similar to communism, a threat that we faced. But nonetheless, within the disguise, shall we say, of a religion. So Leslie, how do we negotiate this rather treacherous path?
Well, first of all, I would agree that there is racial profiling going on. I think a lot of folks at Fox know Marshall's not my real last name, and my married name is a Muslim Arabic name. My husband is not Muslim, but he was raised in a Muslim home, American-born, prominent surgeon. And I can tell you, Trish, 99% of the time my husband and I travel on a plane, when they look at our ID or passport, we are profiled. However, I have to say that my husband and I also know why we're being profiled, but it's not just about
Do you have a problem with that?
Community.
Let me ask you, knowing what you know, knowing the dangerous world in which we live, do you have a fundamental problem with somebody looking at you twice because of your husband's last name?
I have a problem when it's only because of that, or only me, when we're not on any watch list. I understand and certainly want to be safe on the plane myself, along with my husband and my children, and I want others to be safe. But the majority of people who have such a last name, like my husband and I, are law-abiding citizens who contribute to our nation. We're born here, love our nation, and love the freedoms, including that First Amendment freedom of religion
So you
of
think
our
that
nation.
You cannot, should not be targeting anybody or scrutinizing anybody with a last name that seems to suggest they practice Islam?
Well, first of all, if we're only looking at people with a Muslim last name, and we're only looking at terrorist attacks, when we have had so many people die at the hands of people who I think terrorized people, whether it's in a church in Charleston, South Carolina, whether it's in a movie theater in Aurora, Colorado, or various college campuses.
That's fair, but that's another conversation. I mean, we're talking about fighting ISIS here. And what I'm trying to figure out from you is, are you okay with someone looking at you twice when you get on the plane because of your husband's last name? And if not, how do we protect ourselves while still, being true to our identity of who we are as Americans, which includes the freedom of religion?
Well, talking to experts on counterterrorism and fighting ISIS, they have said that some of these efforts, quite frankly, are time wasters. We need to be more specific. For example, if you look at somebody with a last name or somebody who is dressed a certain way, say a woman's wearing a headscarf, and that's just a mass sweeping generalization of individuals, we're not targeting people that could become radicalized. I think everyone in this nation, regardless of their ideology or religion, wants this prevented and stopped. And I'm just not sure the way that we're being profiled, even though they don't admit it currently, is effective, obviously.
Ned, let's get you in here, and then I got to move on to another story, but your thoughts.
I was going to say, listen, we know the recent profiles of those that have committed terror, usually in the 20 to 30 age demographic, Muslim male. So, you know, I think we can kind of
women
narrow.
Too. Don't forget San Bernardino.
And women, but let's narrow it down to that and start there. But, you know, I think politically, you know, political correctness is a luxury that we have in a time of peace.
No, but it's not just political correctness. I mean, this is the debate, right? Because it's freedom of religion. And you're talking about a religion that has been manipulated in such a way that it's become a political ideology. But this is why it's a conflict. But
at some point we have to say, at what point does the line get crossed where it goes from freedom of religion into hate speech that is encouraging violence and murder and terror? Yeah. And I think this is where we have to say we're going to use common sense. And this political correctness, again, it's a luxury in a time of peace. We are in a clash of worldviews right now.
Yeah,
and it's a worldview.
We're certainly not in a peacetime situation. Thank you very much, Ned. Leslie, I'm going to see you guys in a little bit. We got much more to talk about. Also breaking today, everyone, a major shakeup today in the Trump. Major shakeup inside the Trump campaign today. The presumptive GOP nominee firing his campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski. The exact reasons for his firing, they are unclear, but the campaign has faced a rather rough patch in recent weeks, including some slip in poll numbers. In the latest Monmouth national poll, which was released just moments ago, Trump is trailing Hillary Clinton by 7 points. Then there's the Never Trump movement that is vowing to fight on. They're trying to set rules at the convention that would allow delegates to vote from whoever they want, which Trump, of course, has taken issue with. Watch.
You have a couple of guys that were badly defeated, and they're trying to organize maybe like a little bit of a delegate revolt, maybe. I mean, forget about the legality because it's not legal.
All right, we got a lot of developments here today. I'm joined again by Leslie and Ned for analysis. Ned, he's definitely had some blunders as of late. It seems to have cost him in the poll numbers. Corey Lewandowski was hardly a diplomat, right? So did Trump have to make this change? Was he being badly influenced by Corey?
No, I think part of what they had to do is make a decision what direction they're going to go. We're end of June almost, and its time is running out. So I think they had to make a decision.
He's got to make that pivot, right?
Do.
Pivot to the middle.
But the other thing, too, is if you're familiar with what's going on with the Trump campaign, I mean, there's been a lot of dissension, a lot of infighting, and I think at some point you had to say we've got to stop the infighting and pick which direction we're going to go. But no, I don't think it had anything to do with bad advice. I think part of it had to do with lack of building infrastructure, and I don't think it had anything to do with the convention. Paul Manafort's in charge of the convention. But, Trish, the thing that's going to happen in Cleveland the week before the actual convention, July 14th and 15th, the Rules Committee is going to meet, 112 members. And they're going to decide, are they going to unbind the delegates on the first ballot and allow them to vote their conscience? And again, it's
pretty wild.
Well, you're starting to see more and more chatter. It's not gotten to the point where I think it's overwhelming chatter that leads you to believe it will actually happen. But as far as I'm led to believe, it's a simple majority on the Rules Committee that will decide, do we unbind the delegates and let them vote their conscience? Again, once they do that, it then goes to the floor of the convention and the delegates
themselves have to vote on it. So are you telling me, Ned, that Trump may not get it? That somebody else may emerge?
I am saying that there is the potential. It's not inconceivable, but here's the problem. We're essentially 3 weeks away from the Rules Committee meeting. You know, the weight of process, the wheels have been set in motion. Trump has over 1,400 pledged delegates, 120 some unpledged. You know, he's sitting at about 1,500 delegates. So there's this weight of the process and the motion that's headed towards, you know, him being the presumptive nominee. So
right, but there's certainly a serious effort. I mean, they had a phone call over the weekend where people could call in delegates to voice their concerns. I want to get over to Leslie, but your thoughts again, Ned?
But let me put it this way. Trish, it's not inconceivable. Do I think it could happen? 50-50 chance. Do
you think, Leslie, that there's a certain amount of pressure now being put on Donald Trump to conform to some ideals which are more true to the conservative party as opposed to what, you know, he's sort of thinking in any given moment? And that is part of this effort as we hear about the attempt to oust him and put someone else in? Is it a threat or is it real?
Absolutely. Oh, no, I think it's very real. I think there are many in the GOP who are very concerned and question as of late with talk about ideas with regard to the Second Amendment and guns, whether or not Donald Trump is A, a real conservative, B, they look at the poll numbers, C, they say he really needs to be pitching to conservatives more than the Bernie Sanders followers. He needs to get the other half, if you will, of conservatives. And I think that they're seeing some, the Libertarian Party rising and people like former Massachusetts Governor William Weld and Mitt Romney and Utah not being interested in a very conservative
Aren't they
state
kind of
in
shooting
Donald
themselves
Trump.
in the foot? I mean, if you look at this, dispassionately, just as a political analyst, and look, the history books will have lots to talk about when this is all said and done, but is the Republican Party perhaps ruining its chance at the White House by not backing its candidate, Leslie? Leslie, first.
No,
And
because
then
I think that. I think when they look at the map, I think it's clear that right now, and especially with the polls, and the more Donald Trump comes out with rhetoric that divides not only the party but the nation, that it's less likely Republicans can regain control of the White House and can keep control over their majority in the House and the Senate, which are also concerns.
All right, so Leslie says they're
also,
cooked.
this is not a general election. This is a general election coming up. So, it's a very different type of election than a primary.
Ned, your thoughts?
Yeah, Trish, I mean, part of the problem here is that Trump is in many ways being his own worst enemy. He has been he's not had a great last couple weeks, but he's not doing some of the fundamentals that he should be doing in regards to really building out the campaign. And again, Trish,
but maybe this is a step in the right direction, Ned. I mean, he's getting rid of Corey. He's putting Paul, who's sort of the elder statesman, in there, who has a lot of experience in campaigns. Could this be a turning point for him?
It could be a turning point, but here's the thing, Trish. We know that national elections are really about 10 to 15 states. He's got to start focusing on those 10 to 15 states. Again, the usual suspects, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida, and some others. And he's got to start raising money. I mean, here's the thing that Trump has basically said he's really not raising money. He thinks he's going to build some national campaign off a lot of rallies and earned media. Well, that only takes you so far. And this is a different ballgame. This is not the primary. This is the general. He needs to start doing some of these fundamentals if he's going to give himself a chance. Since he hasn't been doing that, since there's been so much dissension in the campaign, you've heard this chatter start to increase about, well, are they going to change the rules for the convention? Is there going to be a revolt on the convention floor? Well, if he would actually start doing some of these fundamentals, he would tamp down those rumors and actually be able to push those off to the side. But again, he's got to decide what direction he's going to go.
All right. Leslie, Ned, thank you so much.
Thanks, Trish.
Donald Trump set to meet with 900